Good evening, everyone. I will call this meeting to order. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral lands of the Niqawaq, Saulteaux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and the Ipitimisewac Métis Nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. And before we take a motion for the adoption of the agenda this evening, we do have some special presentations to make in honor of Rural Healthcare Week within the town of Edson and Yellowhead County. Edson Town Council and Yellowhead County Councils have both proclaimed next week as Rural Healthcare Week. In celebration of Rural Healthcare Week and our local medical professionals, the Community Care Foundation Attraction and Retention Committee launched the Edson and District Healthcare Heroes Awards. It is important to recognize the tremendous impacts healthcare professionals have had on the lives of so many families throughout our region. The stories shared by the public and colleagues were heartwarming and speak to the respect our citizens have for these professionals in our community. We had a total of 36 nominations submitted this year, and the decisions were not easy, and the selection committee had to make some very difficult choices. There were 5 categories established, and the selection of award winners considered different factors, including the number of nominations received, as well as the stories shared by their patients. Today, we're joined by Community Care Foundation Chair Marcia Jensen. Marcia, if you want to wave. Yellowhead County Mayor Wade Williams. Yellowhead County Deputy Mayor Bridget Lemieux. As well as Councillor Peter Taylor, who will be helping me present the awards this evening as he is our representative on the Attraction and Retention Committee. The awards tonight are sponsored by the Community Care Foundation, Town of Edson, Yellowhead County, and Bannister Edson. In order to make this as smooth as possible within the tight space we have here within council chambers, I will announce each one of the award winners, share the story provided to the committee by the public, and then ask for them to stand to be recognized by everyone in this chamber. Once all the winners are announced, we will present the awards to the winners and take photos by the flag to my left-hand side here. So, we're very honored to have a number of special guests and award winners here tonight. And the first category was healthcare aid. And we'd like to say congratulations to Jasmine Gaucher. Jasmine is such a beautiful, outgoing, friendly coworker and kind soul. All of her care towards patients comes deep from the heart and doesn't go unnoticed. She is the kind to lend a helping hand even if unasked. I believe Jasmine deserves this nomination because she is a healthcare hero for so many around Edson and area, Parkland Lodge, and the Edson Hospital. Congratulations, Jasmine Gaucher. Under the nursing category, we'd like to say congratulations to Karen Maynor. Karen Maynor's nursing career is a remarkable example of lifelong service, role dedication, and deeply human-centered care. Her entire professional nursing career has been devoted to serving the people of Edson and the surrounding region, including rural areas between Edson, Evansburg, Whitecourt, and Hinton, with an impact that spans generations. Karen graduated from the University of Alberta Hospital School of Nursing in 1985 and moved to Edson in 1986 from the Lakeland area, where she would go on to spend her entire nursing career serving our local community. Throughout her career, Karen has been a steadfast advocate for the human element of rural healthcare, recognizing that trust, dignity, and compassion are as essential as clinical skill. Her calm presence, empathy, and unwavering commitment have helped countless patients engage in care that has improved both quality of life and long-term health outcomes. Karen will retire on May 29th of this year, concluding a long and impactful nursing career devoted entirely to Edson and District. Her retirement marks the conclusion of a career that helped shape the foundation of modern healthcare delivery in Edson and the surrounding rural communities. Few individuals can claim such sustained, meaningful service to a single region. Karen's legacy is deeply woven into the health, well-being, and strength of Edson and its surrounding rural communities. Congratulations to Karen Maynor. Unfortunately, we had some difficulty reaching Karen this week, but we will make sure she gets the award. Our next award is under the physician category. Dr. Franz Kruger is an incredibly valuable team member at the Edson Healthcare Center and the Edson Medical Clinic. Not only is he immensely knowledgeable in his areas of expertise, but he is also kind, compassionate, and caring, to name a few positive qualities. He really takes the time to pause and listen to his patients and is always kind to staff members and to his colleagues. He is an inspiration to all healthcare professionals, and we are incredibly lucky to have him in our community. Dr. Kruger is currently our sole anesthesiologist and has been for quite some time, a family physician, emergency physician, and somehow at any hour of the day or night, Dr. Kruger always has a smile and calm, respectful demeanor. Dr. Kruger is also a great teacher. If you've ever been under his care or had the pleasure of calling him a colleague, he is a true definition of healthcare hero. His selflessness and sacrifice to our community is a real gift. We thank Dr. Kruger for his incredible service to our region and congratulate him on being this year's Edson District Healthcare Hero. Under the other professionals category, we'd like to congratulate Allison Roth, who's our continuing care manager. And the nominators had this to say: I am honored to nominate Allison for recognition as an outstanding care manager. In my experience working in continuing care, I have never encountered someone who demonstrates a level of compassion, advocacy, and unwavering dedication that Allison brings to her role every single day. Allison consistently goes above and beyond to ensure that residents receive the care they need when they need it. She does not approach her role as simply managing her department. She approaches it as a responsibility to advocate fiercely for each individual resident, especially when they are at their most vulnerable. Now, the nominator did present some details of a recent situation, which I won't get into, but it really speaks to the level of passion that Allison gives. What stands out most about Allison is not just her ability to navigate complex systems, but the depth of her compassion. She feels deeply for the residents she serves. I have personally witnessed her sit at her desk in tears, carrying the emotional weight of ensuring her residents are treated with dignity and respect. No crying, Allison. That level of genuine care cannot be taught. It is who she is. Allison sees beyond policies and processes. She sees people. She advocates with strength, empathy, and integrity, often going tooth and nail to ensure the best possible outcomes. Her voice makes a difference, and her actions directly improve the quality of life for those in her care. Congratulations, Allison Roth. And finally, at our large category, we'd like to congratulate the Edson Leap Society, Anne Vanderhaeg and Michelle Campbell. Anna Vanderhaeg and Michelle Campbell founded the Edson Leap Society. Both saw a need for early intervention for many diverse kids in our community. Through their backgrounds, they have helped countless kids and families in Edson and Yellowhead County through the programs and services that LEAP provides. Congratulations to the Edson Leap Society, Anna Vanderhaeg and Michelle Campbell. So yes, next week is Rural Healthcare Week, so we do invite you to the barbecue, which is May 27th at the Edson Hospital in the courtyard. So please join us in celebrating our local healthcare professionals. So we're just going to take a moment here to do some presentations and photos over by the flag. So first up, I'd like to welcome Jasmine. Thank you very much, everyone. And with that, I will take a motion for the adoption of the agenda, please. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
I move that the agenda for the May 19th, 2026 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Can I get a motion, please, for the minutes of the May 5th, 2026 regular meeting of council? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
I move that the minutes of the May 5th, 2026 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns with said minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And we do have a public hearing this evening. Yeah, we're going to open up the door there, please. The public hearing is for bylaw number 2232. So I will open this public hearing at 7:14. Just for an overview of the process, we will have staff presentations, followed by public presentation from anyone wishing to speak for or against the bylaw, followed by any clarifying questions from town council. If applicable, the applicant will be given the opportunity to speak for 15 minutes, which is us, so I don't believe that's going to be necessary. And then other registered speakers will have the chance to speak as well. Please direct all comments through the chair this evening. So with that, we will start the public hearing and hand things all over to Ms. Julia Darling, our development officer, and Kyle Miller, our project planner with Schaefer Andrew Limited.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have Kyle Miller, our project planner, on the line. He's going to go through our presentation for the public hearing for our Year 2 amendments for the land use bylaw.
Thank you, Ms. Darling. Just before I get going, is the presentation full screen for everybody?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening's public hearing is for bylaw 2332, which is a bylaw to amend Schedule A of Land Use Bylaw 2296. The purpose of this presentation is to provide a summary of the proposed Year 2 amendments, explain the general intent behind the changes, outline key areas of the Land Use Bylaw affected by the proposed amendments, and answer any questions that Council or members of the public may have. This is not a comprehensive review of or a rewrite of the land use bylaw. Instead, it's an omnibus amendment package that is intended to address issues that have been identified over the last year throughout the day-to-day administration and interpretation of the bylaw. Council adopted the current land use bylaw in June 2024, following comprehensive review and public consultation process. After the first year of use of the new land use bylaw, administration brought forward a set of amendments which were adopted through bylaw 2326 in July of 2025. And today bylaw 2332 represents the second annual amendment package. These amendments were identified and tracked by administration throughout the last year through the continued use of the land use bylaw. The purpose of the amendments is to correct errors and omissions, respond to unintended consequences or outcomes, clarify regulations or clauses that have been difficult to interpret, and improve the consistency in how the land use bylaw is applied. Overall, the goal is to ensure that the land use bylaw remains clear, functional, and effective for both council, administration, and the public. As council knows, the amendments have to proceed in accordance with the processes set out in the Municipal Government Act, and bylaw 2332 was presented to the Committee of the Whole earlier this year in April and received first reading with amendments in May of 2026. And just quickly covering some further additional administrative items before delving into the depth of the amendments. Notice of the public hearing was provided in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, and public hearing was advertised in the Weekly Anchor on May 4th, 2011 May 4th, 2026 and May 11th, 2026, and was also published on the town's website on May 4th, 2026. The public hearing tonight gives council the opportunity to receive submissions from the public before proceeding on further readings of the bylaw. As council is probably sick of hearing me say, the amendment section of any land use bylaw is the definitions section. And sorry, the most important part of any land use bylaw is the definition section. And they are critical to how the land use bylaw is interpreted, how it functions, how land uses are classified and separated, and how the land use bylaw is applied to different types of land uses. Definitions help the development authority determine what the proposed use is, whether a development permit is required, which districts the use is allowed in, and whether a use is treated as permitted, discretionary, or not listed at all. Proposed amendments include new definitions for change of use, discontinued use, and hedge. These are intended to provide clear guidance to administration and the public. Several existing definitions are also proposed for revision, including commercial school, dwelling, modular home, fence, foundation, industry major, industry minor, parcel of land, parking lot, retail convenience, and retail general. And I guess one of the more significant changes in this suite of amendments is how supportive housing is defined and how supportive housing is regulated in the land use bylaw. And what we've decided to do in this amendment is delete the existing fairly broad supportive housing definition and include two new land use definitions, supportive living facility minor and supportive living facility major. This change is intended to better distinguish the municipal land use regulation from provincial and federal program terminology, which came up during our discussion at Committee of the Whole. And the land use bylaw is not intended to regulate the users of land. It is intended to regulate land use and is not intended to identify how programs or function or operate within the definition. So the minor supportive living minor definition is intended to capture residential style supportive living facilities, including existing facilities that are throughout town. And the supportive living major definition is intended to address more intensive facilities, including those that may provide daytime drop-in services, support services, and temporary emergency overnight accommodation. Section 4 of the land use bylaw identifies the administrative provisions of the bylaw, which is how the bylaw is used in kind of a day-to-day use by administration, and contains provisions related to non-conforming buildings and uses, as well as processes for amendments to the land use bylaw. The proposed amendment in this section amends a section that required that signage be placed on properties that were subject to a land use bylaw amendment application, and the wording has been modified to be more flexible in that regard and be more permissive. In some cases, a sign may still be appropriate for public awareness. In other cases, it was seen as it was unnecessary and a site sign is not required. And so we're trying to, I guess, balance the transparency of applications while avoiding additional unnecessary administrative steps and costs to applicants, because signs have to be printed and installed on the site, which results in additional costs and time. Proposed amendments in section 6 deal with how development permit application are reviewed, how the decisions are made, and the procedures that administration undertakes when processing these applications. As council is aware, section 683 of the Municipal Government Act requires that development permit is required for all development in a municipality unless that development is specifically exempt from requiring a development permit. And Section 6 also identifies what information must be submitted with a development permit application and the administrative steps that the Development Authority must follow in issuing a decision. This helps ensure that all applications are treated consistently. The proposed amendments in this section include an exemption to changes of permitted use within the central business district. So, from requiring a development permit. So a change in use from one permitted use to another permitted use would not require a development permit, provided that the new use satisfies all of the applicable land use regulations, including the general regulations that may apply to the specific development, parking and signage requirements. And this is an intent by administration to make it a little bit easier for residents to establish businesses where there's a permitted use, and kind of reduce the process and the red tape that would be required to obtain that development permit application. The other change that we've proposed in this section is to how notice of development permit decisions is provided. Currently, all approvals are published on the website and are publicly available. That will continue and not change. For discretionary use development permit application approvals or approvals that involve a variance, the Development Authority is required to provide additional notification to adjacent property owners, as there are appeal rights for those types of uses. And what we are proposing is that the additional notice can be provided either by mail notice or by newspaper notice. And that was driven largely by some of the issues we've had over the last couple of years with service through Canada Post. So that's kind of the rationale behind that. And as always, refusals must be provided in writing with reasons to the applicant, and the decision has to outline those reasons for refusal. As I said, we've proposed some amendments to the Central Business District that are intended to reduce red tape and support a more business-friendly central business area or downtown area. As I did say, we are proposing that the requirement for a development permit be waived when there's a change of use from one existing business permitted use to another permitted use. And we're just trying to help, like I said, make things a little bit easier for residents. The land use bylaw has the permitted uses that are listed in the district, and those uses are already determined that they are appropriate in the district. And so we're trying to just streamline the process for residents. We are also making some amendments to the regulations regarding parking in the Central Business District, where there's major renovations, site improvements, and no architectural changes to the existing building. No additional parking is required. And then when there is a change of use, additional parking would not be required if the exterior dimensions of the building are not changing. And so what we're looking again to do with these amendments is reduce barriers for business development and provide more certainty for downtown property owners and business owners. Section 8 contains the general land use regulations that apply broadly to any type of development within any district in the municipality, as well as specific use regulations for specific types of development, such as fencing, landscaping, home businesses, secondary suites, and supportive living facilities. We've proposed a number of amendments here, primarily related to how accessory buildings are regulated and treated. Currently, the land use bylaw restricts the maximum area of accessory buildings to 15% of a lot area, or 100 square meters. We are proposing that this be changed to 10% of a lot area, or a maximum of 225 square meters. and that the no accessory building can exceed the lot coverage of the principal building, that a maximum of 3 accessory buildings are permitted on a parcel, and that larger accessory buildings must meet the same setbacks as the principal building. Again, this is intended to respond to development pressures that are not unique to Edson, but generally seen in smaller urban municipalities where there are people that have larger shops or larger garages for the toys or the different things that they've got going on their properties. We are also proposing a revision to the maximum height of accessory buildings to 7.6 meter. Excuse me, 7.6 meters, except where a detached garage suite is being proposed, and then the height provisions in the applicable district are apply. And that is intended to allow just again larger vehicles in taller garages. The amendments also include new regulations for supportive living facility and require applicants to provide security plans, locations of external cameras, lighting, identifying number of drop-in spaces, outdoor amenity areas, staffing, supervision, and other security measures, as well as setting a boundary separation distance from sensitive uses. Excuse me. The other amendment in this section relates to home-based business regulations. And again, we're trying to make things easier for residents and clarify some of the differences between minor and major home-based businesses, including the floor area that can be dedicated to the home-based business, the number of client visits to the site, signage, how storage is handled, the number of employees, storage of commercial vehicles, and vehicle trips to the site. And finally, there are some proposed amendments to support the town's housing strategy by allowing up to 2 secondary suites per parcel in residential districts and increasing the maximum number of sleeping units in a secondary suite from 2 up to 4. Section 9 includes regulations for parking, loading, and circulation on a site. The amendments in this section are proposed to streamline the changes to parking requirements for within the central business district, and just make sure that there's no conflicts between what we've allowed for by reducing some of the regulations for parking within the central business district, and just making sure that this section accurately reflects those changes. And it's also being the parking table is also being updated to reflect the new supportive living use definition, and just replace the supportive housing areas in this table. Excuse me. Section 10 is sign regulations, and there was some discussion about this at the committee of the whole, and we've gone away from regulating the window signs in this amendment. The existing land use bylaw contains some inconsistent window sign regulations, and we have indicated that this is no longer something that we wish to regulate, so we've just deleted the requirement for the maximum area that they can cover of a window surface. Again, this change reduces red tape, removes an internal consistency that was identified, and allows businesses greater flexibility in how they use signage within their building. So section 11 is the land use districts. One of the things that the Municipal Government Act requires a land use bylaw to do is divide the municipality into districts and to list the permitted and discretionary uses within those districts. A permitted use, as council has heard me say before, is a use that the land use bylaw and council has determined is appropriate for any parcel of land within that district, and where an application for permitted use satisfies the requirements of the land use bylaw, the applicant is generally entitled to receive a development permit. Discretionary uses are slightly different and require, I guess, a case-by-case review of its individual merits by the Development Authority, and allows administration to consider additional matters such as adjacent land uses, traffic generation, site layout, neighborhood characteristics surrounding development, and what conditions may be necessary to address offsite impacts. And the proposed district amendments add several uses to many of the land use districts. There is a full list in the RFD. And the other thing that administration did during this review was identify some discretionary uses that maybe were more appropriate as permitted uses. So we've again tried to be more flexible as we proceed here, and try to allow uses where they're generally going to be considered appropriate while retaining discretionary uses where site context and compatibility still needs to be addressed. I guess the other key item that I'd like to flag for council here is that supportive housing is being deleted from the R2 and the R3 districts, and that use is being replaced with the new supportive living facility minor in those districts. In the C2 district, supportive living facility major is proposed to be a discretionary use, and again, this allows administration to review those on a site-by-site basis. There are some amendments to reduce or to eliminate wording about barrier-free commercial regulations, which were in the R2 district, and those are being deleted because there are no R2 or commercial uses in the R2 district, so those regulations had no application. And in the Parks and Rec district, amendments delete some of the more prescriptive setback requirements and provide that set requirements are to be at the discretion of the Development Authority, which in our opinion provides some flexibility for how park and recreation sites are developed and may allow for more usable or programmable space within municipal parks, which I think is a good thing, with outdoor space being at a premium. So in summary, as I said, as I started here, the proposed amendments are generally administrative in nature, are intended to clarify existing regulations, correct errors or omissions, and respond to interpretation issues that have arisen throughout the administration of the bylaw over the last year, and provide better tools to the Development Authority when applying the land use bylaw. We're also working to reduce red tape and be more business friendly, particularly in the central business district, by removing requirements for change of use permit when it's permitted to permitted use, as well as adding additional uses to many of the commercial and industrial districts. And I think the secondary suite amendments that we are proposing support the town's housing strategy by allowing some additional flexible housing options and how housing looks in Edson. And I think that's an important thing as we've worked through a number of tasks with the housing strategy. And then just clarifying how administration provides notice to adjacent landowners and the public about discretionary uses and and sorry, just in closing, administration has brought forward these amendments as part of our ongoing process to ensure that the land use bylaw remains clear, functional, and effective for residents, council, and administration. I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Council, do we have any questions at this point in time for our presenters? Seeing none, do we have anybody that has submitted Anything for the public hearing or registered to speak this evening?
We have received no written submissions and we have no registered speakers this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Before I close the public hearing, I'll give one more chance if there's anybody in the gallery that would like to speak or anybody around council have any further questions. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:38. Thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, happy birthday.
Thank you.
We have no presentations and delegations. We will go to reading of bylaws presented by Ms. Darling. I don't think there's anything new you need to add.
Hello again.
Hello.
Have any questions?
Do you have any questions before we take second reading to bylaw number 2332? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councilor Schramm.
I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 2332.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, that motion is carried unanimously. And can I get a motion for third reading, please? Go ahead, Councilor Taylor.
I move that council give third reading to bylaw number 2332.
Thank you. Any debate on said motion? Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Darling and Mr. Miller, for your presentation this evening.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our Chief Financial Officer, presented by Denise McDonald, the A6 debenture bylaw number 2335.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Today we're looking at A6 debenture bylaw 2335. A6 sanitary sewer line upgrade project includes the purpose of our A6 debenture bylaw number 2335 is to address the authorization of the debenture borrowing under the Municipal Government Act and fund the A6 sanitary sewer upgrade project. The project was identified through 2023 sanitary sewer review, and ongoing issues include inflow and infiltration capacity constraints. Existing A6 line is undersized and is required to support the future YCE multiplex demand. The project timing, driven by the YCE multiplex upgrade. The multiplex completion increased the sewer demand on the A6 construction and the A6 construction is planned for 2026. The plans and specs are prepared and the total cost of the project is estimated to be $1,915,900 and will be established, our revenue sources are established as reserves for $115,900, grants $300,000, and debenture $1.5 million for the total $1,915,900. Key considerations is that the financial instrument, which is the debenture, be completed before construction can commence. So we will follow the debenture approval process that was included in the agenda package, and that includes giving first reading to the borrowing bylaw, advertise for 2 consecutive weeks, and provide an opportunity for petition for 15 days before returning for second and third reading of for the bylaw to be passed. To have a valid bylaw for application purposes, we would have to wait 30 days after the bylaw is passed in order to do an application for borrowing. So therefore, it's anticipated that the bylaw would return to council for consideration for second and third reading approximately June 16th. This is just a financial summary of the project, indicating the project costs and the funding sources. The debenture details would be that we would be borrowing $1.5 million and the term would be 20 years with a maximum interest. And note that's maximum interest, it creates the ceiling. The last look at interest indicative rates was 4.9 for 20 years, so we have to provide some room in case that percentage changes. But the rate would be determined at the time of borrowing. Repayment would be semi-annual principal and interest payments. The existing debt would be as of December 31st, 2025, which is 8.13 million, and there's no outstanding arrears. That being said, administration is looking for council to approve the total A6 capital project cost of $1,915,900. That's excluding GST, and that council give first reading to bylaw 2335.
Thank you very much, Ms. McDonald, for your presentation. Council will open the floor to questions. Go ahead, Councillor Holden.
Through the mayor to Ms. McDonald. I just noticed this just before meeting. The RFD for this bylaw 2335 indicates that resolution 31-2025 was held on January 21st of 2026. I think it's a typographical error because that meeting didn't happen. We had a meeting on January 20th. That was a meeting that I looked back in the records that it would have been done on January 21st, 2025. And I do apologize for the late information. I just happened to notice it when I was reading through. Just if that needs to be adjusted. I did read through the package, and in section 2.2, I have a question though, besides that. So we would borrow 1.5 million over 20 years, and it's for an upgrade that's useful life is estimated in section 2.3 to be 20 years. So at that time, after the completion of the repayment of the debenture, would it be safe to say that another upgrade or financial commitment would be needed?
I think that would be one for Mr. Kitlitz to answer. Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. It's interesting. Typically our sanitary pipes are about a 30 to 40, 50 year lifespan. So I don't think we specifically would be in that position in 20 years. So it's interesting. I'm not sure how to answer that one. Pipes last more than 20 years typically.
Thank you, Mr. Kitlitz. I believe that's probably what the value is in terms of what it shows on the books, but the actual timeline in which that infrastructure lasts, as we know, we have 40, 50-year-old pipes in this community. So, yeah, probably, I don't know, Ms. McDonald, something probably to do with asset retirement obligations and those sorts of things.
Yeah, the 20 years may come from our TCA policy that indicates our assets the pipes are typically 20 years. Now, of course, they can last longer than that. We are not allowed to borrow for a useful life longer than what its useful life is. So certainly we wouldn't want to borrow for more than 20 years anyway. So maybe the RFD could have been more accurate. So I apologize for that.
Councillor Wilson-Lear.
Through the mayor to GM McDonald. I do recognize that this is first reading only, and tonight is really about allowing that borrowing bylaw process to move forward so council and the public can continue reviewing the proposal before a final decision is made. But I did want to note that from our many previous budget discussions and debt profile presentations, administration has shown that the town remains well within its legislative borrowing limits and has been taking a measured approach to debt management, particularly with a large portion of existing debt tied to long-term utility infrastructure projects. And it is important that council continues to monitor overall borrowing capacity and future flexibility. What stands out to me in this report is that the A6 project is directly connected to the future operational capacity of the YCE multiplex. The report indicates the existing sanitary line is undersized to accommodate the anticipated peak flows once that multiplex becomes fully operational. For the good of the community as a whole, whether they're users or not, this work must be completed. But I also appreciate the explanation that financing approval is being brought forward now to support proper planning, design completion, and improved cost certainty, even though construction timing was adjusted. I do have a question, and it's, I ask simply from the perspective of long-term financial planning and ensuring, as a new council, I have a full understanding of all supporting infrastructure costs associated with major capital projects. So I'm asking why this infrastructure requirement was not originally identified or incorporated into the broader multiplex project budgeting and financing strategy, and whether this need evolved as additional engineering analysis was completed. Just how it came about to at this point.
Ms. McDonald or Mr. Kitlitz? GM Kitlitz, you want to take that question?
Sure, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So if I understand the question, I don't think it was included as part of the YC multiplex because it was actually part of our sanitary sewer condition assessment that identified this area as a potential surcharging through the modeling. And then through the extra analysis that was recommended in that study, with the multiplex being online, it determined that we needed that extra capacity to also accommodate that. So I think it was a separate information, and then it became sort of in concert with the YC after.
I want to say thank you for that clarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any further questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Schramm.
Yeah, through the chair to administration. Again, anytime we can do these upgrades within our community, they're really valuable. But maybe for myself, the people watching at home, could you give us a snapshot of what we're talking about for a route as to exactly where this new line is going to be installed?
Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So it is in 48th Street between 6th Ave and 1st Ave. And it's not the entire length. There is some portions that have already been replaced. I think under 4th Ave already it has been replaced, so we wouldn't be going through the highway. And it's a trenched upgrade of the pipe. It's a 200 millimeter sanitary pipe right now, and we're looking to upgrade some of it to a 450 and a portion to a 300. And I also share, because I think this is a learning from administration with council, that we built into this particular tender because it is trench, and I know that the trench work we've done over the last couple of years has left the pavement surfaces in not the best looking shape. We've included a provision for 2 years after the project is complete to come through with a mill and overlay from curb to curb of that area. So we're going to see how that goes as a trial.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Kitlitz. Councilor Holden.
Through the mayor to Ms. McDonald, I echo Councillor Schramm's comments of getting this done when we know cost certainty. I do realize that previously that was actually in the capital budget, but that money was redirected towards the B1 upgrade. So basically, I'm not overly comfortable asking taxpayers to pay for 20 years through a tax increase. Is there any possible way we can find savings elsewhere, given that where the economy is going? I know that our, the cost of all of these capital projects are borne by the taxpayers primarily, and they are going to pay over a long extended time. So some of the seniors that are, ending near their tax-paying careers, they're being asked to pay for this. I absolutely believe this project needs to be done. I just wonder if there's another way we could do it, because we had funding kind of set aside prior to this council's term, and then we used it elsewhere. Could you what's an expected increase to a taxpayer's taxes based on this formula roughly? I have my own calculation, but I'm not sure it would be entirely accurate. Thank you.
Go, Ms. McDonald.
Through the mayor to Councillor Holden, I haven't, I certainly can calculate and provide that to council, and maybe provide that at the next council meeting of what that would include. But to speak to how it affects our taxpayers. So reserves are monies held from the past, taxes held of the past. So they're historically paid taxes are reserves, actually. What a debenture does is provide intergenerational equity in that we spread out those costs into the future for the future people who utilize that service. And so unless we can find grants to support it, utilizing reserves means that our past taxpayers are going to pay the full front of it. And so that's where debentures are a good tool to use for financial purposes to pay into the future, so that an elderly person may stop paying as they sell their home and move into a different type of housing situation.
Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to provide a bit of clarity on the history of the project, because there was also budgeted funds in the 2026 capital plan for this project. So in 2025, it was a budgeted project along with B1. But B1, there was an option to go with the full rehab rather than trench, and council opted to go with that full rehab, which drove up that price quite a bit. So the decision was, and that budget adjustment was to defer A6 to 2026 and use some of that money to pay for the full extent to B1. But in 2026 capital, there was 1.5 million approved for the A6 project, and then we come back with the funding source and the increase based on our estimates tonight. So just a little bit of clarity on the history of that for council.
Thank you. Council, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to Councillor Holden, and I understand your hesitation in terms of a borrowing bylaw. There's certainly sometimes a misconception about borrowing. Now, we learn as individuals, we borrow when we're young, we pay it off over time like a mortgage, and before we retire, you have it paid off. The thing with governments, though, is that we don't retire. Governments don't retire, and it is forever. So it's okay for governments to service some kind of debt to get projects done. You're going to see the YC multiplex. You'll see the new ladder truck we purchased. You'll see it with this project, right? And everybody's going to incur that cost. If you live in Edson, you incur that cost, right? If you ever move away, you don't. And of course, we're all going to benefit from this line. We're all going to benefit from the multiplex. And if you live here, you service that cost. So I'm supportive of first reading. Certainly, borrowing is just another avenue that we have as a municipality to proceed with major capital projects.
All right, so I just want to remind council, we don't actually have a motion on the floor, so we should not be engaging in debate until that motion is put on the floor. This is the portion where we're supposed to be asking questions, not getting into the debate. So do you have any further questions for council? Or sorry, for administration at this point in time? Seeing none, I will take a motion from the floor and then we can get into said debate. Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
I move that council approve the total A6 capital project cost of $1,915,900 excluding GST.
Thank you. So do we have any debate on the actual project at this point in time? So I'll just speak to this project. As was indicated, this was a part of our sanitary sewer review in which indicated a number of priority projects, which included the B1 project, which included the project from 10th Avenue down to 1st Avenue. I don't even know what was that B1? No, that's A1, as well as A6, which has caused, that line has caused some issues on the northern side of town on Edson Drive and that sort of thing. And as we delved into the multiplex, obviously there's more pressure going to be put on that line. So this project absolutely needs to be done. We have delayed it for a couple years as other projects have taken priority. As a council, we're always mindful of the amount of money we have, but we have some very big priority things that we've had to deal with in order to rectify some aging infrastructure and some undersized infrastructure in our communities. So this will certainly help with flooding and mitigation within our community. So I am in support of the project. If we have any further questions, comments, or concerns, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And now we will take a motion on the borrowing bylaw. Go ahead, Councillor Pasichny.
Yeah, I move that council give first reading to bylaw number 2335.
Thank you. Councillor Holden, would you like to start debate on said bylaw? Go ahead, Councillor Holden.
Through the mayor to council and administration, in no way, shape, or form did I ever want this project not to move forward. I was just considerate of the taxpayers and the funding model. And I do support the project, and as we move forward, a little bit of clarity even from Councillor Taylor, that yes, we will not end at my term in council. The government will not stop. It will continue forward. So the taxpayers and GM McDonald's explanation that debentures will have the future taxpayers of Edson support the infrastructure and the projects that we are completing this year. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holden. Ms. McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor. I just did a quick calculation of a current debenture, and I'm saying this with an asterisk because it would be at the time that we actually pulled the application. So at a current interest rate of 4.39 for a 20-year, the payment annually would be $113,000. So that's under $1 million.
Thank you very much for that information, Ms. McDonald. Council, any further debate on this? So just to Councillor Holden's point, I think he brings up a very fair comment about, the impact that borrowing has on ratepayers. No matter how we fund these projects, ratepayers pay. Either they paid before or they're going to pay in the future. Consecutive years that I've been on council, both as mayor and as a councillor, we have strived not to borrow until absolutely necessary. There's a comment that I hear Councillor Wilson-Lear often talk about as reserves and reserve balances. We only have a couple options here. We can choose not to do a project, which will delay the inevitable more flooding in our community. We can pull more money from reserves so we don't have money when something else fails. Or we can plan it out like we are doing now through our finance team to say, hey, this is a project that we can borrow for. Our borrowing, if you look at our borrowing compared to other similar sized municipalities, we have been very good. Most of our borrowing has been supported by special levies. It's not generally supported through just taxation. And I think the biggest one on our debenture list is for the wastewater treatment plant, which is supported through fees on our utility bills. There's no magic funding available, and we utilize as many grants as we can. So I agree with actually what Councillor Holden said. We need to be mindful of borrowing. I don't like borrowing. I've spoke about that before, but we're in a position where we have to replace some of this infrastructure, and we can't do it by completely depleting our reserves or ignoring the problems that we have in our communities. So I am in support of this, but we do have to be mindful. We do have this one. We do have the aerial truck, and then, of course, the YC multiplex as well. So I think we are going to get to a point where we can't borrow anymore, but this is a project that absolutely needs to be done. Council, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. McDonald. We'll move on to business items. Seniors Week proclamation. Come on up, Miss Lexi Abbott, our Community Development Coordinator.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just going to talk to you guys today about a Seniors Week proclamation. So just an overview of Seniors Week. It's an opportunity to recognize, honor, and appreciate older adults. It celebrates the positive contributions seniors make to the community. It promotes inclusion and respect. It encourages community connection, and it supports active aging. So Seniors Week this year is scheduled from June 1st to 7th in 2026. It's a province-wide celebration. There's community-wide events that are coordinated and promoted by Edson FCSS, and it's for seniors ages 55 plus. So this year we have 16 partners and 17 events happening. It looks pretty similar to last year's Seniors Week, but with a couple new ones, so we're excited about that, but pretty similar to what's been going on recently with this event, or with this initiative. So then the purpose of a municipal proclamation is to formally recognize Seniors Week in Edson. It raises awareness for Seniors Week activities, as well as seniors-focused programs, services, and opportunities that are, promoted within Seniors Week. So it shines a light on things that are always going on in our community. And then it affirms the town of Edson's commitment to seniors' engagement and well-being. So my recommendation is that council proclaim the week of June 1st to 7th, 2026 as Seniors Week in the town of Edson. Are there any questions?
Council, we'll open the floor to questions for Ms. Abbott on Seniors Week. It's a highly controversial thing. At the table. Some of us are more closer. Never mind. Ms. Abbott, thank you very much. Lots of events for our seniors. I just want to confirm that our partners, Yellow County, will be invited to the pancake breakfast to help serve.
For sure, of course.
All right, thank you. With that, I will take a motion from the floor. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
I move the council proclaim the week of June 1st to the 7th, 2026 as Seniors Week in the town of Edson.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Abbott.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much.
And now we go back to Ms. McDonald for her encore presentation of the first quarter financial report 2026.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to introduce Ryan Wetkiser, our municipal intern, who will be supporting the presentation of the Q1 financial reports this evening. Generally, the Q1 financial report reflects a limited level of activity. Year-end for 2025 has just been completed and finalized, and most of the 2026 projects are in the early stages of implementation. In accordance with the town's financial reporting policy, the first quarter report provides a high-level overview. Reserve balances and debt limit remain unchanged from the 2025 year-end reporting, and so there's no material updates for those areas. So the report before you includes three major components. The balance sheet, which reflects the accumulation of all organizational transactions to date. The income statement by object and income statement by department, which shows the annual activity from January 1st to March 31st. And the income statement by funding pillar, taxation, utilities, and land. And finally, the capital project report, which outlines the status of the approved capital projects. So starting with the balance sheet or the statement of financial position, I'd like to walk you through the highlights. Cash and cash equivalents include both investments maturing within 1 year and funds held in a high interest savings account at ATB, which is treated as an investment for reporting purposes. As a result, the investments are down by 1 million, so 4.5 million is indicated there. It's down by 1 million as it was moved from long-term to short-term. Short-terms are reported under cash and cash equivalents. Taxes receivable has a negative balance because the tax levy has not yet been posted. Meanwhile, those on the pre-authorized payment program have been paying their taxes monthly, which reduced the receivable, putting it in a negative balance. The finance team is considering if there's a better way to present this, as it does blur the taxes receivable at March 31st, as of the taxes outstanding. So we will consider that if there's a better way that we can report it. For deferred revenues is the next item on there, of 5.2 million. We have received the 2025 allocation for the that's 25 allocation for the Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF grant. And our current practice is to keep this revenue in deferred revenue until the capital project is complete. The project is then closed, or at year end, the revenue is allocated to the project expense. The finance team is also working on improvements to our capital project reporting, and this will change so the funding is allocated to the capital fund. Prepaid expenses is listed there at 2.1 million, and it includes 1.75 million for the aerial truck. The capital project is slightly different from a construction project that would remain in work in progress on the capital fund. Because it's a piece of equipment, it was decided to hold the expenses in prepaid expenses until the total costs are allocated and the debenture is applied against the expense. We're expecting that to happen in July. The unrestricted surplus is accumulation of operating surplus or deficit and the capital surplus or deficit as we proceed through the year. It is in a negative position at this time because taxes have not yet been levied, and when they are levied for municipal taxes and requisitions of 20 million, this surplus will quickly change to a positive position in Q2. Right now, it reflects the 4.5 million in operating deficit that you'll see shortly in the income statement, and 8.4 million of capital deficit less capital revenues received and posted, thus speaking to how we want to make improvements to the capital program. It would include the CCBF grant of approximately 0.5 million, $500,000 there, to reduce that. So I will pause here for questions on the balance sheet, if you have any. If not, I will move on to the income statement by object. We've illustrated the 26 budget for the year is in the first column, the 26 actuals, variances, and the prior year actuals. The first highlight, as already mentioned, is the property taxes are negative because taxes have not been levied yet. So on the income statement, it would be only transactions that have occurred and posted in 2026. So the fact that it's negative takes into account any changes in assessment. So we have had changes in assessment already this year that are reducing the amount of money we will anticipate to receive for property taxes. I would also like to bring to council's attention for later purposes, the municipal property taxes listed there at 15 million and requisitions at 5.3 million. We will work to further break this, I missed the breakdown on the income statement for tax pillar, and so I'm going to bring this back to your attention a little bit later so that this is actually accurate. So municipal property taxes are 15 million, requisitions are 5.3. Later in the tax income statement, it's only under municipal property taxes, so I missed that breakdown and I apologize for that. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. The next highlight is government transfers for operations. So for transparency, we wanted to allocate the Yellowhead County's contributions. We will work to further break down the federal and provincial allocations for Q2 report, but we thought it was a good idea to be transparent about the Yellowhead County. Prior to this report, we rolled them all up into government transfers for operating. So we'll make a change there going forward. Under investment income, we have 239,785 or 34% of the budget, which is higher than the first quarter or 25%. And it indicates that we're in a good position to meet or exceed our budgeted investment revenue for the year. Penalties and costs on taxes are at $117,555 or 43% of the budget, which is more than 25% because we apply 4 penalties during the year. January 15th was 8%, March 15th was 4%. These penalties are applied to all outstanding taxes. Our future penalties include July 15th of 7%, at September 15th of 9% on current taxes only. For fines, you can see that it's sitting at 18,834. I just wanted to bring to council's attention, we mentioned it at year end, that we were working on a change in accounting practice for fines. So you can see that the prior year at this time was 219. That was on a cash basis, and we're moving to an accrual basis. And what an accrual basis will do is it will support the work that is being done by the enforcement officers and RCMP to support when the tickets are issued versus when the tickets are paid. So in Alberta, you have up to 3 years to pay your tickets, or when you renew your license, you are forced to pay it at that time. And so it doesn't reflect the work that our officers do, and by moving it to an accrual basis, it better supports it. However, we're not quite there in the transition, and you'll see that by Q2, we will have fixed this to make it more automated to ensure the accurate number is reflected in there. The 18,000 is low. Franchise and concession contract revenue is sitting at 20% of the budget. Generally, there is a month lag on receiving these franchise agreements and is trued up by the end of the year. For expenditures, you can see that our salary, wages, and benefits are sitting at 21% and trending below budget, noting that this will increase in the summer as additional seasonal support staff are hired. When we look at requisitions, the requisitions are sitting at 19% and our actuals at 1,027,000. Those requisitions are invoiced to us based on Q4 requisitions and is for education only. So you will see that by Q2, this will be trued up to be half the year allocated. And then note at the bottom, our operating surplus or deficit is 4.4 million. So remember on the balance sheet, I said there was 11.9 in overall deficit. This 4.4, as well as the capital fund deficit, contributes to make up that 11.9 million. I'm open for question on this particular income statement.
Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
Through the chair to GM McDonald. I just wanted to ask a question about the grants in lieu of property taxes. Does that happen later in the budget year? And I wanted to confirm that 2026 they're allocating 100%.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Wilson-Lear. Yes, that when we allocate, when we levy the taxes, it will appear there. Again, we need to break out those budgets so that you can see what the budget is. We might not have had it at the time that we created this report, but by Q2, we have all those breakdowns. And so you will see the budget for the grant in lieu as well as the actual, which will be at, this will be the first time for a number of years, it will be at 100% for grant in lieu.
Go ahead.
Again, through the mayor to GM McDonald. I just wanted to make a comment in relation to the fines, and if you could just help me with this, because I don't think it is representative of the work that our officers are doing, because people can take fines through the court process too, which can take up a lot of time. They're generally paid then through the provincial government, whether it be through the courthouse or through a registry office when people are re-registering their vehicles and can't have to do it at that point. So then does the provincial government then pay us the fine amount, or is it just a portion? Do they receive a portion as well?
Oh.
Just curiosity for your council. Thank you.
Thank you for the question through the mayor to Councillor Wilson-Lear. Yes, the tickets that are issued by the RCMP and our peace officers, whether it's under the provincial legislation or municipal legislation, the provincial legislation requires victim assistance funding support, and so the province takes a portion of that off, and we only get a portion of the money that we are eligible for. And so it's a complicated formula in order to determine it, and we are trying to get that automated so that it can quickly post there and better reflect the work that they are doing.
Counselor Wilson Lear.
Again, through the chair to GM McDonald, thank you for that clarification, and that victim fine surcharge is then going to victim services. There is an administration cost by the province to process those payments. So we would just be getting whatever that 20% or of that surcharge is, we would get the remainder of the fines that are written for our municipality.
Thank you for the question. Yes, the report we get shows the full amount, but then it shows how much they've held back for a victim assistance program, and the remainder comes to the municipality. But yes, there is no administrative charge for that.
Counselor Fogarty.
Thank you. Through the mayor to CFO McDonald. Can I just get some further clarification on how municipal property taxes work, considering many citizens do pay prepayment monthly? I'm just having trouble understanding where all of that money goes. I'm going to assume most of our citizens do that? Or you just clarify for me how that all works.
So if we can go back to the balance sheet. Currently, thank you for the question through the mayor to Councillor Fogarty. Currently, the prepaid taxes are sitting on the balance sheet right now until the taxes are levied, and then it will be moved to the operational. So that's where it's in the negative, which is kind of like reverse. It's thinking backwards, because we would have had taxes receivable there in a positive number, but because we're getting pre-authorized taxes, it's bringing the outstanding taxes down to a negative. So it's kind of flipped around, so it's a little hard to understand, and that's why I felt that we maybe need to pull this out and have it sit in a liability, like a deposit liability, so it's easier to identify, and our true outstanding taxes would be in the positive nature there. So yes, it doesn't hit, it's not hitting our income statement until we levy those taxes and we move those over.
Council, any further questions, comments, or concerns? I'll just mention, I forgot to mention this last week when we were doing the tax rate bylaw, but we actually have more tax exempt properties in assessment than we do non-commercial assessment. So let that sink in. Something that I found interesting last week, which impacts those numbers up there. So continue, Ms. McDonald.
And if I can add to that, how important it is for us to use franchise to collect taxes on behalf of the people that are exempt from taxation. So if we could move on then to the income statement by department. So I haven't highlighted a whole lot on this one because it is the same information except by department. So on the first highlighted area, you'll see that when we do levy our taxes, it falls under general government services. It'll be approximately $20 million that will be posted there. Under protective services, our contract for the RCMP, we are allowed 90 days to pay, and so our first quarter it's our first quarter payment, but it's their last quarter payment, I believe, because they have a different year, is delayed into April, and so you'll see that that is lower than it should be for first quarter. Then if we can move on to the income statement by funding. So we typically do not go through these in detail, but because it's first quarter and we have some extra time, we will look at these individually. So you can see that the purpose of showing the tax pillar income statement is to show that our budget, we budget for 35.8 million in revenue, and we budget for expenses of 35.7 million on the bottom. If you could just slide down a little bit there, and we have an overall surplus of 128,000. So that meets our MGA requirement to ensure we're not budgeting for a deficit in the taxation area. That being said, as we mentioned before, the revenue in the second column at the top, you can see that we still need to allocate our taxes. And this is where, if we could slide back up to the top, I'm sorry. You can see that I didn't break down the budget between municipal property taxes and requisitions. So that first line should be 15 million and the second line would be 5.3 that I brought to your attention earlier. So that number's not accurate. Our municipal, and it's important to me because our municipal taxes are not 20 million, right? And then if we can go to the last pillar, the next pillar is the utility fees. So our utility fee income statement, we have 7.2 million in revenue, of which we have actuals of 1.5 million. And when we look at the expenditures for that, we have 7.2 in expenditures, indicating we are balanced. Tax does not support utilities. Our actual expenditures for first quarter is $1 million, showing a surplus of $503,998. So as we go through the year, if there is a surplus at the end of the year, any surplus goes to their designated reserve in utilities. Taxation doesn't gain anything from it. So then the last pillar is land. And land is a smaller budget area, but again, you can easily see that the revenues support the expenses. We have a small actual expense of 268 in the first quarter, but it supports that our commitment that self-supporting departments are not affected by taxes, and any surplus at the end of the year is allocated to their designated reserve. Any questions on that? If not, I'll move to the capital report. So our final report is capital expenditures. You will see that we have 55 capital projects divided into the departmental areas. The capital budget totals 70.5 million, of which 8.4 million in expenses have been recorded to date. Of those 55 projects, 11 are completed, with some just waiting for invoicing. There are 9 projects in process at the procurement stage, 25 projects in progress beyond procurement, 3 on hold, 4 not started, and 2 postponed. That's our Q1 report. So I'm open to any questions council may have.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for your presentation. Council, do we have any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I will take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councilor Pisichny.
I move that council accept the quarterly financial report for the period ending March 31st, 2026 as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you, GM McDonald, and intern. I won't try to pronounce your last name, but thank you. Up next, we have the authorization and approval of the expiration of approximately 3.95 acres to GM Kitlitz, who will do the presentation this evening. Go ahead, GM Kitlitz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council. Brief presentation for tonight's motion. I'll briefly go over a little bit of the history of the project and why it's needed, and then I'll briefly touch on the highlights of, the general process for expropriation, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that council may have. So, whoops, wrong animal here. So background, this is a project that's been on the capital list for a couple years. What it does is it provides a critical secondary access point into the area, our industrial area south of the CN rail lines off of 54th Street. Some of the issues that we experience today is when times that crossing at 54th Street is blocked by CN rail trains. We compromises emergency access. It also impacts 6 businesses that are down in that area, as well as our landfill. The other thing that's important is 54th Street does have a bridge crossing across Bench Creek, I believe it is. And there is future plans for an upgrade of that road as well as repairs to that bridge. That project would be quite detrimental to some of those businesses if we didn't have a secondary access into that area. So the current road allowance on Township Road 53, I've said it a million times and now I can't remember what the number is. 532, thank you. Is a 20-meter road allowance. The preliminary designs by WSP are planning to float the road structure over the soft organic materials that are in that area. In order to do that, they require a bit more width. And so they're asking for 20 extra meters to the south of that current road allowance. This again will allow them to complete the final design and float that road, but it also provides the opportunity for extra ditch to the south to accommodate any future infrastructure that we may need to service that area from the west, without having to rip up the road to install those services. I think that's it for the history. In terms of the appropriation process, it's quite regulated. The authorities for expropriation are the Municipal Government Act, as well as the Expropriation Act. We've retained Brownlee, who will be helping us through this process, and they'll be doing the bulk of the work for us and making sure we're on task to meet the requirements of these acts. The process starts by tonight. If Council chooses to support the motion and the attached resolution, it basically initiates the process for administration and our agents to go through these steps of expropriation. I'll go through them and I'll speak a little bit to the other decision point that Council has. If Council supports the resolution tonight, the next step will be notification to the landowner and anyone else on that title, whether it's a utility company, a mortgage company, any rights of ways, or anything else on that particular title. It also requires that we register a notice with Alberta Land Titles. From 21 days, I believe it is, the landowner has the option to file an objection against that notice. It's important to note that the objection can't be objecting to the expropriation proper. It needs to be an objection to the necessity of it. So for example, they could make an argument that 20 meters is too much, you only need 10. And they'd have to make that argument for that. If an objection is received, it goes to the Minister of Justice, and then an inquiry officer is appointed to go through that process and determine whether the objection has cause. If there's no objection, it proceeds to a council approval date. So I want to be clear that council's not approving the expropriation tonight, they're approving the process to start. So after that objection period expires, whether there's an objection, or if there's an objection filed, there'll be a report submitted to council by the inquiry officer that says, here's the findings of the objection and whether it has cause or not. At that point, council will bring back a RFD to council to either approve or refuse the expropriation. A note is that even if that report finds that the objection has validity, council still can choose to approve the expropriation. Not sure what that looks like, but if they choose to do so, they can, with a rationale for doing so. From that point, the approval is registered with land titles, and the municipality has 90 days to compensate the landowner for the expropriation. The landowner does have the right ultimately to appeal or file an objection to whatever that compensation is. That would go to the Land and Property Rights Tribunal. It's important to note that that would not stop the transfer of title for the right-of-way. It would happen subsequent to. Time-wise, it takes approximately 120 to 251 days. And a lot of that's depending on if there's an objection filed, because that can extend the process substantially. With that, the recommendation tonight for council is to council approve the resolution regarding expropriation for the purpose of acquiring a fee simple estate over certain lands located within the towns of Edson, as set out in attachment 1 of your RFD. And I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Councillor Pisichny.
Thank you through the mayor to Jim Kittlitz. My question's on the amount of the compensation. So is there a industry standard? Is there a municipal standard, or is it based on fair market value? Is it based on appraised value? Like how does the compensation portion come up with that? Like,
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it's based on an appraised value. So we had an appraisal done on this land here already that established a value. So our offer would be for that appraised value.
Counselor Taylor?
Through the mayor to administration, maybe I'll direct it to GM Kitlitz. I guess in terms of the amount, I see it was about 2,500 an acre for about 3 some acres, so about $10,000, I think. Plus we have, there'll be considered other costs involved, namely legal costs involved in this. Where are we pulling that money to cover these? Is that coming out of the capital cost of the project, or is that over and above to somewhere else that we pull that money to cover those two costs and whatever else we might incur in this process?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think the intention is to pull it from the project cost unless CFO McDonald tells us otherwise, but that's the plan right now, is to use the project to pay for these costs.
Counselor Wilson-Lear?
Through the chair to administration, when expropriation processes begin under the MGA and the Alberta Expropriations Act, I know that can't be, that the landowner cannot stop that process. But they still have important rights around the process, which you've explained tonight, in compensation and fairness. But my question is, does expropriation end negotiations altogether, or legal to legal? Can those be ongoing during this process? I know this follows a framework, and legal will interpret case law and legislation. But I'm just wondering if that takes the negotiation process completely out of the equation.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not 100% sure on that. That's a really good question that we didn't cover in consulting with our lawyers, but my hunch tells me no, but I don't really know for sure with any certainty whether, if the landlord came to the table and said, let's negotiate again, whether we could stop it. I think we could let it expire. If we don't file our approval within 120 days of tonight's night, it does expire. So. But yeah, definitively, I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Counselor Fogarty.
Through the mayor, thank you to Councillor Wilson-Lear for that question. That was my first question, was about sort of re-engaging with the landowner if this process was to start to move forward. My next question would be, why is the additional 20 meters if we have an existing row of 20 meters? Why do we need the additional 20?
Through Mr. Mayor, sorry, maybe I wasn't 100% clear in my presentation. So the area of the land where this road allowance is very organic. I think there's up to 20 feet of organic material, so it's muskeg. So the preliminary design work by WSP has suggested they can build the road, but they have to float it over a wider base of material than a typical road would allow. And that's why they need the extra width. To build that structure and that base to spread the load over a wider area.
GM McDonald?
Through the mayor to Councillor Wilson-Lear, regarding, I've had the fortunate experience to be through an expropriation, and at that time, unless things have changed, once you submit for expropriation, the town receives the title, and it's a legal process after that. And so if it's disputed, it might even go to a third party who will determine what the town pays. So there could be some negotiation between lawyers back and forth. However, it is, once it's submitted, the title is done. It becomes in our hands. So it's not like you can back out of it and say, okay, well, let's go back and make an offer individually. Once you've started this process, it's a legal process moving forward.
For that clarity.
There was a question to me, though, earlier, and I missed the question. Was it a pricing?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
I think it was around whether the funds to purchase the land and pay any of the legal fees or extra costs would come out of the project budget. That's our plan, unless you direct otherwise, I guess, or advise otherwise.
I'd have to thank you for the question, but I'd have to dig into that on where it could come from.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on this process? Go ahead, Councilor Pacicci.
Yeah, through the mayor to Jim Kitlitz. And maybe just for clarification, that this the land was, we tried to acquire the land through normal channels first, correct?
Yes, through Mr. Mayor, so we made 2 separate offers on this particular right-of-way with the landowner, and both were rejected.
Councilor Fogarty.
Through the mayor, was there any path forward after 2? Did this seem like there was an opportunity to get closer rather than going down this road?
No.
CO Beveridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Expropriation is the last resort, Council. It's not a position that the town wants to be in. It's not a position where we want to go through that process. So it definitely is a last resort.
Thank you. Council, any further questions or comments? I'll just say it's unfortunate it's come to this. We have tried to negotiate in good faith, and we no longer can wait for that process. We have to go through this process now. This is very important to the town of Edson for the safety of our community, for our landfill, for us to be able to do other infrastructure upgrades along Landfill Road. Take no joy in moving forward with this process, but sometimes you're unable to negotiate, and so this is where we're left. So I am in support of the upcoming motion here, and we'll see where that process goes. Council, take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I move the council approve the resolution regarding expropriation for the purpose of acquiring a fee simple estate over certain lands located within the town of Edson as set out in attachment 1.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, GM Kitlitz. Next up, CO Beveridge on the 2026 Alberta Municipalities Resolution Equitable Provincial Charitable Gaming Model.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try not to shiver through my way here. Sure. This evening, I'm pleased to present 2026 Alberta Municipalities Resolution, Equitable Provincial Charitable Gaming Model. So from time to time, Council, we have the opportunity to second motions or actually put forward our own motions as well. But at this time, we've been asked by another municipality to help support their motion, their resolution. So as I mentioned, our Alberta municipalities, AB Munis as we refer to them, resolutions guide provincial advocacy efforts. The deadline for submission is May 31st, 2026. St. Albert City Council approved the resolution entitled Equitable Provincial Charitable Gaming Model recently, and reached out to our municipality as we fall within one of the other categories. So with the Alberta Municipalities resolutions policy, it requires that a resolution mover and a seconder must represent at least 2 of the following population categories. So as City of St. Albert is greater than the 10,000, and we are the 2501 to 10,000, that meets that criteria. With that, just a little bit about the process. The process essentially provides an opportunity for the secondary municipality to provide meaningful feedback on the wording of the resolution. It also confirms support through council formal endorsement of the resolution. So the resolution was attached within your council agenda, and if you wish I could recite it. However, I'm hoping that is not necessary. Essentially, in essence, what the resolution aims to achieve is for equity with regards to charitable gaming proceeds, essentially. So as you've noted within the attachment, there is some inequity occurring with regards to the larger centers in regards to the rural centers in Alberta. So with that, if council would be willing to support seconding this motion, the process would be that members would debate and vote on the resolutions, and then following the resolution session, once Alberta Municipalities begins their advocacy with the province, that would follow through, and that would be a part of potentially really falling in line with council's strategic plan of strong advocacy, following on their effective leadership and governance. So finally, the adopted resolutions guide essentially we get updates continuously, as you notice, with regards to resolutions and where they're at, et cetera, with Alberta municipalities, but we would be a part of that as well. With that, I spoke a little bit about out of my slides, but essentially the inequities, the issues, the uneven wait times for casino access, large differences in revenue between regions, and it just allows for our charities within our municipality also that are very much in need of gaining additional support to also access reliable funding. So it's very impactful for especially the smaller communities and rural communities. With that, if council, I'm happy to answer any questions with regards to this request, and this would be presented. So again, as the process would be, they would call upon City of St. Albert to speak to the resolution, and the town of Edson would then speak in favor of a seconder. Any questions?
Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor and through to council. I definitely support this. I know years ago in the bingos, there used to be, if you got a good bingo, you made money. If you got a bad bingo, you didn't make any money, and you spent the same amount of time in the bingos. You had to cut through the cigarette smoke back then. And then they pooled all the bingos, and everybody got the same amount of money for bingos, no matter if you got a good bingo or a bad bingo. We're in the same world right now with the casinos. And I know a lot of not-for-profits, if you register you're a not-for-profit in the city of Edmonton, you can go to the Edmonton bingos, which give you a lot more money than if you're registered in Edson or Jasper or anywhere else. And I think it would be a lot more fair, is that correct? My English okay? It'd be fair for the rural Albertans and all not-for-profits throughout the province of Alberta have equal access to casinos, and they should be done. So I wholeheartedly support this resolution. I think it'd be great to show us showing support for our not-for-profits to be able to be the seconder on this.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to council, I echo much of what Councillor Pisichny said. We have lots of user groups, community groups here in Edson. Rotary Club and Reflections, there's two that I know that have taken part in casinos in the last few years. And the disparity they get, I think we have to go to St. Albert. And if you see there the amount of money on average that they would collect or get as opposed to some of the Edmonton and Calgary casinos, is astronomically different, and the wait times are so much longer. Much of this money goes back into our community. It's needed for these groups to function and do capital projects. And I know this has been a long time coming. I think it was mentioned in the report about how Camrose sort of wanted to move, but the Edmonton casinos didn't want that. So hopefully this resolution gains traction with Alberta Munis, and the province listens to some changes that need to happen. And also, and the resolution alluded to it as well, is that there's an online gaming portion, as a Play Alberta, that there needs to be access to those funds as well for everyone and not just certain groups. So supportive of the motion that's going to be made here tonight.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, concerns? As Councillor Pisichny mentioned, this has been a long-standing issue. I remember this being brought up, 15 years ago. And there was at one point a little bit of movement on it, and then the government turtled. So hopefully we can get some traction once again. And I think it just speaks to something that we talk about as communities our size, is that there is one size for Edmonton, Calgary, and then there's one size for the rest of us, and it's not fair. And I think everybody should be treated same playing field. Rules have to travel far distances, and yes, rooms and all those sorts of things are covered. Where if you're in the city of Edmonton, you get to go home at night. So there's already sacrifices being made by rural communities in order to attend these events, and the amount of fundraising available in rural communities is much less than it is in the urban centers. So be very happy to support this motion. Council, take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I move that council second the resolution entitled Equitable Provincial Charitable Gaming Model as submitted by the City of St. Albert for consideration at the 2026 Alberta Municipalities Convention.
Thank you. Any further debate on said motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, that motion is carried unanimously. We will move on to council committee reports. Before I take a motion, is there anything people would like to highlight in the agenda package there, or any questions from the committee reports that have been submitted? Go ahead, Councillor Holden.
Through the mayor to council and to those watching, I just wanted an addition. I had inadvertently neglected to add that I also attended the RCMP Town Hall on April 29th, 2026. It was a very interesting and fulfilling evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to council and everyone else in the gallery and watching around the world. Councillor Schramm and I, of course, sit on the Municipal Policing Committee, and as part of our work, we attended the RCMP Town Hall. It was very successful. Staff Sergeant Delisle spoke about our recent stats that we have in town, and I think you see that within the next presentation coming up, that Edson is a very safe community. Our stats are incredibly low in comparison to so many other municipalities, especially the ones our size. We didn't have a very big turnout there. We had a good little turnout maybe online. Lots of questions, but the questions were related to traffic incidences. And when your RCMP town halls are focused on traffic, and not just traffic, but very specific points in traffic, very specific intersections, I'd say we're doing pretty well here in Edson, and that's a shout out to our RCMP members and the proactive work that they do. That being said, if anyone is saying, well, this is only the crime that's being reported, then I encourage you, of course, to make sure you report crime when you see it, when it happens. And if you ever have any issues, obviously Staff Sergeant Delisle is always open. He said that in the presentation to contact him if you have any issues or concerns. So just a shout out to our RCMP. And I should also mention, there were concerns regarding specific points in traffic, and since that town hall, our members have actually been out at those specific points dealing with some of the things that were brought up. So that's pretty impressive.
Thank you. Anything else from the committee reports? Just to add to Councillor Taylor's point, he also mentioned that call volumes are actually up, but crime is down. So the crimes are still being reported, and if you don't report it, it's like it didn't happen. So make sure you report it. All right, council, take a motion from the floor, please. Thank you, Councillor Wilson-Lear. Go ahead.
I move that council accept the May 19th, 2026 council committee reports as set out in attachments 1 to 6 for information.
Thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And we have the RCMP Q4 reports. Somebody want to make a motion, please? Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, I move that council accept the May 19th, 2026 RCMP Q4 report as set out in attachment 1 to 4 for information.
Council, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns on said report? I'm just going to mention something here, and this goes back to the provincial policing debate. If we look at page number 5 in the report, you'll see the municipal operations financial overview. And as the province talks about provincial police force and the RCMP and municipalities not paying for the officers that are not getting the officers that they're paying for. There is a false narrative in there. As you can see in the report, we are paying for the portion of officers that we actually have on the streets that are actually working. So while we were planning for 15 FTEs, we currently have 11 and we're paying for 11. So any suggestion to the fact that we're paying for X amount of officers but only receiving much fewer than that is completely false. And there's a reconciliation that happens at the financial year end. So if there is any overages or underages, that gets reconciled at the end of the year to ensure that municipalities are only paying for the portions that they are utilizing. I'd also like to point out, you'll see the divisionally pooled costs at 100%. There's a number of areas that we pay for as a division for municipalities our size, such as the real-time operations center and those sorts of things. Those are really built into our contract with the RCMP. We don't get additional bills when we have to utilize those services. So I think it's very important that we have correct information in the public, and from a municipal point of view, I want to ensure that we're being transparent of where those costs are and how we are paying for those. Yes, we are down on members, but we are only paying for the members that we actually have. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. We have no notices of motion, no closed meeting session. So with that, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:54.